Hello and welcome to the Limo Profit Show. I'm your host, Ed Stapleton Jr. If you are a small to mid-sized operator and you're struggling with managing your operations, just want to yank your hair out, you need better control of your business, well, today you are in luck. I'm very, very excited to have as my guest Barry Gross from Goff Limousine and Bus Company in Virginia. Barry's pretty much an expert in the fine art of managing and operating a transportation business, and he's done it at the peak of our industry for well over a decade. So super pumped to have Barry on the show. Let's see. He's got 12 years of operations management experience. He's a contributor for Chauffeur Driven, LCT, Limo Digest. He's been a speaker at industry shows. He's an advisory board member for Chauffeur Driven magazine, and he's a former member of the Arizona Limousine Association, or rather, board of directors. So, Barry, welcome to the show.
Ed, thanks so much. I'm honored to be here.
Excellent. So, why don't we start with how you got your start in the industry?
Well, like many in our industry, I got into it pretty much by accident. Not many people know I was a talent agent in Los Angeles for a decade, and had just started my own company, and there was a tremendous amount of fallout as a result of the 9/11 attacks. The entertainment industry shut down, as so many did, and I found myself underwater looking up in a hurry. Needed the next step. I moved to Park City, Utah, where we had a family home, and I was looking, well, what in the world do I do now? Full of debt and not sure what the next step is. I ran into a fellow named Gordon Cummins, who had a transportation company there called All Resort Express, and we hit it off, and just for lack of something else to do, I got my start in transportation, and I really haven't looked back.
Interesting. So tell me about what you did for All Resort. That's a very big company. What's it like to manage a beast like that?
Well, it's interesting that you say that, because when I got started there, it was a $2.2 million company. It was mostly shared rides, a handful of white Suburbans. It was exclusively ski business, taking people to and from Salt Lake City Airport mostly to the Park City ski resorts and the lodging properties there, a little bit to some of the other mountains. And I came in as, quote-unquote, a special projects coordinator. So Gordon really didn't have anything specific for me, just kind of point and click. But the interesting thing about it was, as you mentioned, it's an enormous company now, and I was very pleased to be there through some periods of really explosive growth. At the time, it was about 24 shared ride vans, the 6 Suburbans. During my tenure, we, under Gordon's direction and with his partner Richard Bizzarro, we added a limousine company. We purchased a company called Executive Limousines, which was our first true limousine division with black cars and white glove type service. 2006, we purchased a company called Lewis Stages, which was a motor coach, family-run motor coach operation in business since 1914, and that really drove a lot of the explosive growth.
Wow, and I read on your LinkedIn profile, you went from 2.2 million up to almost 15 million.
Yeah, that was in 6 years. I'm in touch with them now and again. I believe they were $33 million in the past
Jesus
year.
Christ, that's like strapping onto a rocket ship.
Well, it's an interesting thing. Once we got to that, that $12-14 million range, it became significantly easier, not just to buy up the local competitors, which certainly All Resort has done. It has purchased Park City Transportation, which was its biggest competitor, and also purchased its biggest client, which was Destination VIP. And so now All Resort has a very prominent in-house DMC.
Interesting. What's it like managing that kind of growth? I mean, that's explosive. What is it like on a day-to-day business? I mean, is just the phone ringing off the hook?
It was, and you're constantly expanding the teams. You're trying to balance personnel costs versus the amount of business that you can realistically do. It's always a tap dance. Operationally, it was a constant state of battle with sales and with finance over how much personnel, how much material we needed, how many assets we needed to perform the work versus keeping the cost down and maximizing profits. The challenging part in that business was that at the time we were operating at about an 8% profit margin. Everything was done first class. I mean, new vehicles every year, first class facilities, and just a ton spent on the marketing division. And if you could shave even a single percentage point to profit margin, or increase, I should say, it made a huge difference. So we really micromanaged every aspect of what we did, down to vehicle cost, fuel cost, dispatch cost, personnel, purchasing vehicles, really everything that we did, we had to micromanage. And if I could say one thing about that company, is that's the word that I would use, is micromanage. Everything was in play. Everything was looked at all times. It was pretty amazing to, once you get the momentum going, that you can sustain that kind of level of microscopic involvement.
That's impressive. It must have been a fun experience, and at the same time pulling your hair out.
Well, you talked about, on your introduction about pulling your hair out. That's why I have no hair, I think, is my years there. But it was a great experience, and I will tell you that it's just a superb company. Really, I certainly miss my friends and colleagues there. I'm very fortunate to have moved on to some excellent opportunities, but I can't say enough about everything I learned there, and I was just pleased to be part of that growth.
That's great. So let's talk about what you're doing presently. Let's talk about Goff. Tell me about that transportation business. I mean, it's not a limo business. It's got buses. It's a full transportation business. Let's talk about that. Tell me about the company.
Yeah, absolutely. Goff is a full-service transportation company. We have sedans through motor coaches, and what attracted me to Goff, aside from working with Dan Goff, who was just an outstanding guy and one of the smartest guys you'll ever meet, was what I saw as an opportunity to, in large part, own an entire state. And I say that with no respect to some of our larger friends and colleagues up in Northern Virginia. But outside of the D.C. area, much of the state is populated with very small operators. There's really not too many operators of size. There are some players in Richmond, but otherwise not so much. So it was attractive in that we had a Norfolk / Virginia Beach operation, and the corporate office is in Charlottesville, which is in the center of the state, but is directly adjacent to University of Virginia, which is our largest client. We have since opened Richmond office, and we serve Washington D.C. with local assets there. So the ability to geographically do what no one else I know of does was very exciting.
Interesting. And what's the fleet look like?
Well, we right now we've got I'd say 9 town cars and about a dozen buses, another dozen minis. We've got some assorted limousines, vans, Vanteras, SUVs. We're running about 55 vehicles, which is really a little light for the geographic area that we serve. So we have to be really careful on managing our fleet every day. We move assets to positions of high density volume, and sometimes we shift according to season. So it's a challenge every day to stay on top of that.
Interesting. Okay, we'll get to that in a little bit, because I definitely want to talk about a nice little present you gave to the industry not too long ago. But we'll get to that in a little bit. So let's talk about working with the university. What's that like?
It's enormous. University of Virginia, one of the oldest, most prestigious institutions of higher learning in the world, and they have ways that have been entrenched for years and years and years, since the advent of automobiles. So you run into a little bit of tradition, and as such, there are some challenges operating in and around the university. That said, their purchasing power is unparalleled, I believe. According to U.S. News and World Report, they have the 17th largest endowment of any university in the country. So what many people from the outside, if you're not used to dealing with a university like that, would think is that there's some manner of central purchasing authority, like a transportation division. Not so. Each individual school, each course of study, has their own dean, their own school, and not only do they arrange their own vehicles for their events, but individual professors, individual departments can arrange. So really, when I say University of Virginia, we have about 70 different sub-accounts for the university. Some obviously more prominent than others in terms of volume, but on any given day, we're working with upwards of a dozen different divisions of the same institution.
Interesting. And do you see an advantage or disadvantage with working with so many different subgroups as opposed to one central booking?
Well, from an ease standpoint, and certainly from a marketing standpoint, we'd love to have one, but it's just not the way it's going to be. Really, we could spend all of our marketing time at the University of Virginia going from admin to admin and dean to dean in different divisions. The challenge of it is to determine where your potential volume can come in and committing your marketing resources that way.
Gotcha. Okay. Say I'm a small operator. How do I approach a university? I mean, it's a pretty daunting thing, but say I'm interested in getting to that business. How do I even approach that?
It is daunting. Like the old adage, a journey of 1,000 miles starts with a single step. Start somewhere. Pick among the most prominent and notable divisions of the school. For example, if it has a prominent law school, a prominent medical school, start somewhere. Find out who the dean of that particular school is and talk to the admin. Admins are key in something like a university because you just can't get anybody in their office otherwise. The admins are, however, always there, and they always make all the arrangements. And they all talk. They all refer to each other. Who do you use for this? We need buses for this program. We have speakers coming in. Well, who does the business school use? So word of mouth is very helpful. University of Virginia also has a vendor rating scale. We're very fortunate to have 5 stars out of 5 stars. We work very hard at it, and certainly we want to encourage all the departments that we work with to rate us as often as they can, so that we do have that resource. But start somewhere. Pick one school and work from there. And then when you develop a relationship with the admins, find out who else they deal with. For example, if the business school deals with finance department, find out who the admin deals with at the finance department, and then look for referrals out to other areas. Just one step at a time. So basically, yeah, the exact same way you'd approach a large corporation. You have to, and again, the key is whereas in a corporation, the higher you go, you're going to find most of the decision makers. In the case of a university, the admins generally are the decision makers. University of Virginia operates on a P card system with university visas, and any employee who has a P card has access to $5,000 of purchasing funds on any single transaction without oversight. So that's a tremendous amount of potential transportation. Absolutely. And is there any top-down, so from the higher-ups at the university that mandate certain rates? We do have set rates with the university for some areas. For motor coaches and sedans, we don't, for example, for SUVs, vans, or specialty-type vehicles. They participate in a collective called VASCUP, Virginia Association of College and University Purchasing Professionals, and most of the state universities participate. For example, Virginia Tech does, George Mason, Old Dominion, and the purchasing officials generally send out the RFPs. They set the rates. They approve the vendors. After which, any division can use at that point. So yeah, we do have some set rates, but there's a lot of flexibility too. And we have some unusual requests from department to department that fall well outside of any established rates. So in some ways, it's the Wild West, and you negotiate the best you can. Interesting. And I've never heard of the College or University Buying Association. Is that something just native to Virginia, or are there other associations like that throughout the country? That I don't know. I had not been familiar with that anywhere else. And certainly in Utah, we dealt with University of Virginia, Brigham Young University. They did not negotiate together. In Nashville, Vanderbilt did not. But yeah, VASCUP is very powerful. It also works in concert with EVA, which is EVA, Electronic Virginia Bid Process, whereas the state and all state agencies like University of Virginia put out RFPs and notify potential vendors of contracts that are upcoming. So if you're an approved vendor and you operate through the EVA system, you have access immediately, just like anyone else. Interesting. Very cool. All right, let's move on. Not too long ago on Facebook, I saw you post a screenshot of your GPS software, and it showed your fleet spread out over an entire region in the Chesapeake Bay, Virginia area, and all the way down to North Carolina.
And I know you're a proponent for GPS tracking. Can you talk a little bit about that and how that affects your business?
Yeah, it's critical to our business. It's interesting that we're having this conversation at this time. We are actually we're transitioning between companies. We're transitioning now. We're completing our demo period for a company called Street Eagle, and we were having some challenges with our prior vendor. We did not have great equipment from them. We had consistent service failures. I'm not going to mention who that is, but with Street Eagle, we have, if anything, we have hyperactive amounts of activity, just tons and tons of good material to sort through. Our company operates like few that I've ever seen, in that we cover hundreds and hundreds of miles, not just between our offices, but in the range of where we go. We'll realistically cover an area from the South Carolina border up through New York. We have line runs leaving Charlottesville, going to New York 3 times a week for our buses. We do a ton of work from Norfolk Airport into North Carolina. There's a fair amount of transit between Charlotte, North Carolina, and either Richmond or our Charlottesville offices. So just a tremendous geographic range. If we did not have the GPS, there'd be no way to manage that. We couldn't have a chauffeur be out of contact for 8-9 hours. It just couldn't have it. At least this way, we have the ability to track them GPS. We have the ability to interact with our software, which is Livery Coach. I heard your terrific show with Matt Strack. I believe that was your inaugural show, and not only is Matt a friend, he's a very, very smart operator, and he extolled the virtues of Livery Coach as well. And our GPS interacts really, really well with that for status updates.
Interesting. And do you do fuel consumption tracking via the GPS to cut costs and idle time and stuff like that, or is it just strictly for making sure you're on time where you're supposed to be and keeping track of things?
Well, we're working on that. That has not been part of our demo as yet. More than anything else, our focus was on the driver, the chauffeur monitoring. We're checking speed. We're checking for hard braking, hard cornering, as well as the actual location tracking. The other, of course, was how well does it interact with with Livery Coach. That was a real key component. But as we integrate it, we're going to use all of the robust features in the way that would help manage our costs.
Gotcha. So you're tracking driver behavior, hard braking, hard turns, anything erratic. Tell me what you do with that information. Do you print it out and hand it to the guy? Do you have a sit-down conversation? Depending on how prevalent it is, we can have a phone conversation. We can have a face-to-face meeting. We can have a retraining, up to and including termination. Now, we haven't had to do that. And one of the challenges is we've got to be able to tune the units so that it's not too hypersensitive. It can provide meaningful data without reporting every twist and turn. And I think we've done that. That was a little tricky for about a month to be able to tune the sensitivity. That's a nice feature of Street Eagle. We like that a lot. But it's the interesting thing to me is that you can watch behavior change dramatically. One phone conversation, one face-to-face meeting, and you can see the results. It's gratifying. It's a little bit devilish to know that you have that that power over your chauffeurs, but it's necessary. That's one call from the Gestapo will put you back in line.
Well, I tell you, in such a tough economy and such a competitive industry, I can't afford to have my passengers jostled around, to have a difficult experience. On average, for every one complaint that you received, 26 other guests simply just don't book. They simply disappear. They don't say anything.
Absolutely. So, there's nothing better than a client that complains. They give you the opportunity to make it up and do better the next time.
Absolutely. And in this case, for all intents and purposes, the car is complaining through the GPS unit about the chauffeur. And that helps us head off a lot of problems. We see that as very proactive and positive reaction.
That's great. Let's talk a little bit about, you're an operations guru, managing and just running a tight ship. So let's go with a day in the life of you at Goff. Tell me how your day starts. Tell me how you interact with your reservation staff, your dispatch staff. Tell me what it looks like. Give me a picture.
Well, first of all, you're very kind in your description. I work real hard at it. I don't know if I'd call myself a guru, but again, thank you. I get a chuckle when you say your day starts because it's as most people know in this business now, it's 24/7. There's no turning it off. I'm on the phone constantly. I'm on my iPad checking in on the systems. It's hard to let go. That said, I'll start my day generally about 6 o'clock. I'll check in with my first shift and make sure that the early runs are proceeding as necessary. Check, just outline, see if there's any late additions or changes that have come in. We'll lay out the course of the morning until I get in, which is generally 8:30 to 9 o'clock. At that point, I review with my dispatch team. I review with my bus manager. And then I sort through emails to see what needs immediate attention. We run pretty lean in terms of personnel. So even though we make the LCT blacklist of top 100 fleets, we run pretty lean. So I wear a lot of hats over the course of the day. I like to get involved in our dispatch, both Dan Goff and I. We maintain offices in an open area so that we can kind of keep track of things, which gives us a very rapid response in terms of any issues that may escalate. So one of the biggest challenges that I face on a day-to-day basis is shifting assets through our different markets. It's a lot different to operate four locations, and we have a satellite fifth operation for Washington Lee University in Lexington. We're constantly moving material back and forth to meet demand. It allows us to keep our fleet utilization up. It allows us to keep our revenue per vehicle up, even though we do spend more in labor and in fuel and depreciation to move items between the offices. That said, we've got, I also handle personnel, so I've got HR responsibilities, especially for DOT and Motor Carrier Safety Administration. We've got sales components factored in. It's really a lot of different hats. In spite of that, I'm very fortunate to work with Dan Goff. Our strengths are very complementary. For example, he is just a whiz at finance. You can throw numbers out at him like you would in a boggle cup. He'd spell them out and he'd tell you exactly what your utilization is going to be. He's going to tell you what your profit margin is going to be. He can tell you to hundredths of a percent on the figures, which is fabulous. Just the amount of data that he cranks out.
Let me pause you there just for a second. So about, when would you say it was, 6 months ago, a year ago, you posted on, or Dan posted on the Goff website, cost and revenue vehicle calculator tool. So a cost and revenue.
Yeah, it's called the revenue vehicle calculator tool.
Let's talk about that. I mean, that is pretty freaking awesome. If you haven't seen it, I will link it up in the show notes on my blog. But I mean, that thing is pretty badass. How did you guys come up with this? Talk to me a little bit about this.
Well, I'm going to give all the credit to Dan on this one, and this is just an example of the types of things that he comes up with. We're very close with the trade publications. Dan's had a long-time relationship with LCT. I've had with the folks at Limo Digest and now Chauffeur Driven, and they come to us when they have questions on these sort of things. With the disappearance of the town car and the advent of some new vehicles, they were looking for a way to figure out the true cost of owning a new vehicle, so they could properly report. And boy, Dan just came up with this. He said, let's sit down, and he said, what I want from you are all of the things that go into both our fixed and our variable costs. So I sat down and I contributed the specific costs and what we'd be looking at, the different categories, and Dan just created this grid out of thin air. It's really, I'm just amazed by it myself.
flat out impressive, and it's such a piece of goodwill to the industry. It's such a powerful tool.
Well, and thank you for saying so. It's available to anyone that would like to use it. It's on our website. If you go to agofflimo.com, you would look under industry buyers, and then click under affiliates, and then you can go to the downloadable live cost revenue vehicle calculator tool, and you can use this. Anyone can use it. We readily make it available.
All right, cool. I'll put a link to it direct in the show notes on the site. All right, great. So let's talk about your real area of expertise, which is standard operating procedures. Let's talk about that. Most companies that struggle to manage their business and stay on top of things and don't really have a system in place, and kind of there's an unorganized or organized chaos, whatever you want to call it, don't have a set of procedures in place. So can you talk about why it's important and how you go about creating something like that?
Yeah, I'm amazed that anyone would not have standard operating procedures or training manuals for their people. It's really impossible to have any expectations for your personnel if you don't spell them out and then train them on them. This is something I picked up right away at All Resort, and I created all the training manuals, dispatch training manuals, created chauffeur and bus driver training manuals, and partly it came from just a need to micromanage everything, that kind of a personality. But it became very clear that if you don't put it in writing and you don't train it, you can't hold people responsible for it. And as you develop different layers of your business, it gets very easy to lose control of what's happening. If you have 3 cars and 6 chauffeurs, it's easy to pass somebody in the office and say, "Hey, I need you to fuel at this station, or I need you to make sure you use this sign." But as you become a larger company, especially for us, where we're spread out over multiple offices, it became completely necessary to create standardized training materials. And we spend a lot of time training and retraining.
Excellent. Okay, so take me into how a reservation is taken. Take me through that standard operating procedure. How does that work?
Sure. We don't specifically script. For example, we script the how we answer the phone, but we don't script all through the reservations process. Our business is a little diverse to do that. Although for some people that works at All Resort, there was scripting, but we have to train on a standardized way of taking a reservation. This is how we take a reservation. This is how we describe our services. These are the terms we use. When I train new people, everybody in the company, as part of their training manual, has a glossary of terms. And it's really important that everybody speaks the same language, for example, especially in the reservations process. A client may say, I want a car to the airport, I want a shuttle, I want a ride, I want a trip. Whatever they say, our customer service staff has to take that and funnel it down to terms that we speak that mean certain specific things. For example, shuttle, in our glossary, shuttle is a transfer that operates in a continuous revolving loop. That's it. We don't say a shuttle to the airport. We don't say shuttle to mean a bus. Our line runs to New York are not shuttles. Shuttle means one thing only. That way, everybody on our team, no matter what your position, no matter what your location, which of our offices, everybody knows what's expected to them.
Gotcha. Wow. Okay. So say I'm a 3 to 10 car operator, and I may have just hired a reservations agent or potentially even a dispatcher. How would I go about implementing something like this?
Well, you have a terrific opportunity at that point because you're small enough where you can have an interactive conversation with your staff. Oftentimes, owners or top executives at a company become a little myopic in the way that they look at certain things. They see a reservation in certain terms that perhaps their customer service agent, their reservationist, their dispatcher sees a little differently. And, at the 3 to 10 car level, you have a great opportunity to confab with all of your people to get a great deal of useful feedback, and you can create your training materials together in a way that makes sense for your people. And moving forward is going to be easy to add to, because now you've set your basic parameters and your language and how you're going to do it. So that's a terrific opportunity. A lot harder to go large down.
Gotcha. I would add to that, as an owner and someone that lives in their business day in and day out, they often suffer from a curse of knowledge, where their employees don't know everything that's going on in their head. They don't know to the level of this business that the owner does, and it's hard, unless you're training and you're putting things on paper, for them to know what you expect.
That is an outstanding point. Dan Goff is a key example. Brilliant guy, knows his business inside and out. Not a great trainer. Does not communicate that very well. He has a hard time taking his vast well of knowledge and giving it to someone in a way that makes sense to them and that they can put it into practice every day, which is why I do the trainings. I do the training in manuals. That is something that is one of my stronger suits. So, you have to be able to extract that information. And if an owner has difficulty doing that, or if they find that they're just not well suited to training, they should bring in some help, if even a college student or an intern, to help them get the ideas, extract the ideas and the knowledge from their head and find a way to get it on paper, if even in an outline form, just so they can get started.
That's a great point. That actually leads, I want to talk a little bit about ExecuCar rather. Essentially they did what you just suggested. They, I guess, were looking to build out an affiliate network, and that's what you accomplished there. So can you expand a little bit about that, and what the heck's it like building an affiliate network from the ground up?
Well, thank you for saying that. I also have to credit my running mate there, Jeff Conley. I really enjoyed working with Jeff. He's at Vitesse right now, doing great work for them in Phoenix. But there were some inherent challenges. First and foremost, at the time, and still is, Super Shuttle and ExecuCar were owned by Veolia of France, which is a global billion-dollar conglomerate built of many pillars. There's transportation, energy, water, resources. So it's enormous infrastructure.
Super Shuttle, correct?
Yeah. So I mean, it's just tremendous layers of insulation between where the decisions come from. So there was a challenge there. What I saw was an opportunity to utilize the largest transportation company in the world, Veolia Transdev, and the resources that were there, to utilize the reach of their website, which at the time I was there reached about 12,000 hits a day. And the call centers, they have 2 national call centers, both with 80 to 130 staffers at any given time. They get about 10,000 phone calls a day. So you had 23,000 points of customer contact in a given day, and you're not utilizing the fundamental tenet of our industry, which is to use affiliates. At the time, ExecuCar offered service in 20 of 31 Super Shuttle markets, and there was no reason, A, not to offer service in the rest of those markets, and to B, expand. So it was tough sledding to get folks that made their money on shared ride shuttles to look at the affiliate business as a viable option. But we fought the good fight, and within the first year, we were generating $200,000 in profit for them. So it was a terrific profit center, and they've expanded what they're doing now.
Excellent. Okay. So what has been your number one mistake that you've made in your career, or in the limousine business?
Well, I will tell you, there have been several, but I guess the biggest that I've made is that I've had a really hard time being able to separate work life and home life. It's funny. I've never owned a company. I've always, come in and been an administrator, as it were, an operator. But even so, in order to do it properly in our industry, you really have to take an ownership mentality, whether your name's on the door or not. And that's hard to do it at the level that we want to do it, at the level that our customers constantly demand. It's hard to get that balance. I wish that I would have found a way to develop a little greater balance. Something I struggle with even now, even 11, 12 years into this.
Gotcha. Okay. And that's something that most people in this industry struggle with. It's a hard 24-hour industry, 24-hour a day, 365 type industry. So
it is, and it's interesting. I look at my friend Jason Chernow, and Jason helped build a terrific company at Broadway Elite, and he's a great operator. And I didn't think that there was anybody that was more intense on their focus of everything that was going on in their business until I watched Jason operate, and then to watch him try and strive for a little greater balance in his in his work and his home life, and watched how it's been a great benefit to both him and to his company. As you release authority and capability and empower your people, you now have, instead of one person who can answer questions or who can generate revenue or create solutions, you now have 5, 10, 15, 20. And that's really the key to developing a large company. But it's hard to let go.
Okay. So what advice would you have for a newcomer? If you're sitting down in their office, they're a 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 car operator, what advice would you tell them?
I think the best advice I ever got for that situation came from one of my mentors, and I've been fortunate to have some terrific mentors, George Jacobs among them. But Tom Mazza, who, a tremendous loss to our industry last year, but Tom Mazza always preached, don't fall in love with the metal, meaning don't go out and buy shiny new cars until you're actually turning down business on a consistent basis. So you don't want to grow just for growth's sake. You want to make sure that you have sustainable business and you don't have cars sitting around. And I think I like that. That's grow for the wallet, not for the ego. Yeah. And it's hard. All the magazines, they put out the automotive porn, the shiny new cars and great systems to do everything. And we have, fabulous vendors in our business who are very responsive. We also are very competitive by nature. We want to give great service. We want to compete with our colleagues. We want to appear on the LCT, top 100 list. We want to be able to go to meetings and say, hey, I grew my company X%. And sometimes the way that's measured, unfortunately, is by the number of vehicles. And I want to caution people to be very careful about adding equipment, and certainly adding what type of equipment. So
that's great. That's really good advice. So let's wrap this up with one last question. Any cool tips or tricks or strategies or anything like that you'd like to share?
Oh God, that's really a tough question. I guess I would say this, that in spite of all the technology, and there's just amazing technology, it's exploded in the last 5 years, from GPS to drive cam, iPad capability, the reporting, the software. I mean, just a technology explosion. It's still more than ever a relationship-driven business. And I look at the people that are threatened by something like Uber, for example, which really is a threat to taxis, and not I don't see it as a threat to our particular niche. But that said, that's convenience driven. It's not relationship driven. No roadshow manager is going to put their people into an Uber vehicle. They need to have a relationship. The University of Virginia is not going to put their people into those type of vehicles. We have a relationship with them. We have a relationship with our affiliates. Our Washington, D.C. operation is tiny compared to some of our well-established colleagues up there. But we get a nice share of business because we have a personal relationship and we sweat every trip for them. So more than ever, while everybody's focusing on technology and cutting personnel and being efficient, don't go so efficient that you lose touch with your clients, because we're not a transportation business, really. We're a customer service business. And if it was all about transportation, people would take a cab, which is less expensive. They drive themselves places. We sell good feelings. We sell solutions to problems. We sell an image and experience. And you got to have a personal connection to your people in order to sustain that.
That's great. What a great way to wrap up the show. This has been a great interview. Learned a ton. I think you provided a ton of value to the industry as always. So Barry, thanks for coming on the show.
Well, thanks for having me. And again, following Mastrack, a tall order, but I hope some of this was useful. And I'm always delighted. People are always welcome to call me if I can be of any service to my friends and colleagues. Okay, so let's give a way for them to give you a shout. What's the number they can reach at? We're available, toll-free at my office, 877-463-3227. I sleep with my cell phone like so many of my colleagues, 434-989-5428, or Barry at agofflimo.com. Always love hearing from my colleagues, and really, one of the things I love most about our business is how collaborative we all are. That is awesome. Thank you so much, Barry. Oh, thank you. It was an honor to be here, and continued success with the show. Appreciate it. Thanks. Have a great day.